your legacy is going to be the kindness that you put out there and that connected so many other people to this one moment in time, this one person in time, this one thing in the universe that just starts rippling. Kindness just ripples that way.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast, where we are interviewing humans about humanity. Imagine that. Today's guest is a VIP. Oh my God, huge VIP, Seth Rome, who's a freelancer extraordinaire. You are amazing. You are one of my heroes. You've always been a light in the world, and I just can't even say enough positive things about you because you're so awesome. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I am doing fantastic. How about you?
Oh, amazing. I just had this amazing interview on me drop today, and I'm so glad that I came off looking amazing. I knew what
Yes.
I was talking about. That was pretty great. So yeah, but in
Love
the
it.
grand scheme of things, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of polarization. There's a lot of stuff that is going on, alongside a lot of good stuff that's going on. So, do you find that you focus on, both? Do you focus on the good more, or what are your thoughts?
I feel like I focus on the good. Well, I make a very conscious effort to focus on the good because, like you mentioned, with the polarization that's going on right now, I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not notice it. But I try what I do every morning. Part of my kind of ritual is that I make myself aware of what's going on in the world and up to date, make sure I'm up to date on it, probably in the first 10 minutes or so. But I'm very careful about limiting that amount of time because, as Thich Nhat Hanh, who is one of my favorite Buddhists, has said, he has spoken of what he calls the second arrow, which is basically you keep exposing yourself to what's causing the pain of that first arrow. So I try to make sure I'm not allowing that second arrow to come into my heart and stay there because that can often create just a lot of not only anxiety, but a lot of anger where we are very stuck in that polarization of us versus
Yeah,
them. And that takes away a lot from our humanity is when we're stuck in painting every one set of people one way and another set of people another way. It takes away a lot from that humanity and we stop seeing just human beings. We just start seeing red team, blue team, or this team, that team, and we
right.
stop just really seeing the core of other people. So I try very hard to make sure that I am well aware of what's going on in the world, especially me being a transgender person. I kind of have to. I mean, the polarization's
Hmm.
gotten to the point where can I safely exist in this space or can I not
Right.
exist in this space or what kind of guard do I have to put up?
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but with having to move states, that's a whole, I mean, that has been something that people have had to do before, but now it's not just a matter of, oh, I need to move to be comfortable, but you need to move to make sure that you don't, get hurt or worse.
Yes.
And so that's just insane that that's how far it's gotten, and with all of the, I guess, advances and all of the, activism that's happened around the community, it feels like it's just been shoved way back. And so I have to ask, that being said, watching humanity act the way it has acted, how does that make you feel as a human and as a transgender person? I mean, do you harbor, resentment, or what are you thinking? What are you feeling, really?
And it's wild because I think about this a lot because I would have every right to be angry and to be resentful. And I don't think anybody would blame me for that. I think a lot of people would say, you're well within your right to be angry and to be upset
Mm-hmm.
and resentful. And especially once we were in that mode of we need to leave right now, and we were in the midst of trying to sell a house, get rid of a lot of stuff because we had a 3 bedroom house. And so we couldn't travel with all of this stuff. And we were, pulling from a 401k. We both had to leave our careers. My wife had been at hers for more than 23 years. I had been with mine for almost 10 years. And it was a very good career that I enjoyed. And I couldn't take that with me. We had to give up a lot of things. I had to give up schooling. A lot of sacrifices are made. And I really told myself, I could be just very susceptible to the anger of it, especially seeing, I think you and I had even discussed like people who were once very supportive of me. All of a sudden, it was no longer in vogue for them to be supportive of me and easily abandon that. And it made me sad, more than anything, it was
Mm-hmm.
disappointing. But I really kept myself in the mode of being, you know what? we have to go forward. Like, what can I do for myself going forward?
Mm,
And really also tapping into my Buddhism and looking into the different communities and asking them, what are you all doing to cope with the lack of humanity you see? Because I not only see it, but now I'm kind of on the receiving end of a
mm,
lot of it. You know, it's being governed, it's being sanctioned, this kind of cruelty. And one of the monks had said, pay it forward in any small way you can. He was like, even if I'm just caring for my cat or, you know,
yeah,
telling somebody good morning or doing something that's within my control, you have to
yeah,
focus on that and put your humanity forward. And
mm,
that is something that I try to do every day when I'm meditating in the morning. I think about the sense of gratitude I have for not just, oh, be thankful for what you have, because you hear that a lot. It's cliche.
sure,
But just expressing the gratitude for, you know, I'm very fortunate to be in the space that I'm in and to have done the work that my wife and I did to be where we are, but
right,
also focusing on how can I pay that just a little bit forward, even if it's a
hmm,
small action. At least I know this is something within my control. My humanity is within my control. And I
yeah,
think I consistently focus on that to make sure that I am still in that good space to
right.
not be subject to not let myself getting pierced with that second arrow and be like reminded that this kind of sucks for trans people right now.
Oh
And it
yeah,
does, but I can at
yeah.
least control what's within my space.
It's not new. I mean,
Yeah.
you've had difficulty before,
Mhm.
as a group. Various groups have, transgender people have, bisexual people have. I don't think people understand that there are even debates or struggles within the community itself,
Yes,
you know?
100%. My gosh, yes.
Oh man, I don't know if you know who Alexandra Billings is. She was on the
Yes.
show Trans. I interviewed her.
Oh, that is amazing. She is
I know
fabulous.
she is. So she went on to speak about so many things, and from the perspective of an older person versus the younger people, and how different they are, and how sometimes the younger people are only doing the activism for trend as opposed to actually understanding, or that a lot of
Yes.
them don't even know what Stonewall was, and so much that's gotten lost. But then also the division and how just how things have progressed or digressed, right? So yeah, I think people don't know about that part, that there is a lot that goes on within the community too, just like any other community. I love that
Yeah.
you're Buddhist. My ex was also Buddhist, and so I've learned many things by watching and observing. And so I think that your Buddhism certainly serves you well, most definitely. And you have probably a very more calm perspective and the ability to listen more before you speak and just really absorb what other people have to say. I think if we
Yeah.
did that, if we all did that collectively, not just, certain factions of people, but if we all did that, we would be so better off for it, and we would be more peaceful,
Yes.
even like politically, if both sides actually listen to each other and not just, wait for the chance to speak, or say something derogatory, then we'd be a lot further. And that also begs the question, like, where in the heck are they? Where is all of the people who are supposed to be, creating these laws or striking down injustice? Where's the Supreme Court? Like, where everybody's on holiday or something, or they're just, I don't know what, they're on a moral holiday. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's, one of the things within our communities we've had to say, no one's coming to save us. Like, and I
Yeah.
hate that it feels that way, even for like, even as me as part as like the indigenous community, like what's going on there, I'm like, well, nobody's coming to save us. So it's a lot of just what can we do to keep ourselves afloat in our
Right.
community and help the others that are really struggling even harder to keep themselves afloat. And yeah, oh gosh, it's a lot.
So much. Yeah. I mean, that's true. And the interesting thing is that, with the indigenous communities, it's like they've been dealing with it their entire lives, if not,
Yes.
way further than that. Yet they decide, okay, instead of just raging war, which they're totally valid to do,
Mhm.
they're taking care of their people. They are making sure that they
Yes.
could give education and food and medicine to their own people. And even sometimes they can't, but they're still doing the best they can with what they got. And
Yeah.
I would love to see, them receive more help for sure. I
100%,
mean,
because not all of them, there's disparities. Like the
yeah.
Cherokee Nation, which I'm a part of, does exceptionally well. They actually just took over the last hospital they had that was under the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Mhm.
Cherokee Nation just fully took that over because they had better resources than the
Mm.
government did, and they've turned that around a lot. But
Wow.
then you look at other tribal nations, And my gosh, like the struggles that they're having are just it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking, and it feels almost interminable at some point because the
Mhm.
government just doesn't want to help those other nations. And that
Yeah.
disparity it's so difficult to see because you see some doing well, and even not, I can't even say everyone's doing well in the Cherokee Nation because they're not. Like they're still struggling sometimes to get those resources
Mhm.
consistently
Mhm.
because some of that stuff is still run by the BIA, which I mean, gosh, like I won't even get started with that,
Right,
but
right, that
it's
that could be a whole thing all day long.
that could be a whole series.
You mentioned that you had a name change. I
Yes.
remember when we both worked at Merck. We'll just say Merck Merck.
Work, work.
I don't want to get sued. Merck Merck. When we worked at Merck Merck, I remember your previous name, and then one day there was an email that went out everywhere, and I believe you wrote the email.
Yeah,
And right, you wrote this
I
email
did.
and you introduced yourself. That was incredibly brave. That was so brave. I remember reading that and just being like, okay, okay, okay. Just kind of processing that.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what you must have felt, what inspired you to write this letter, what inspired you to even create the conversation. Because if you think about it, you initiated conversation before it even existed in public.
Yeah.
Like that was not happening outside in San Antonio. Definitely not. Definitely
Yeah.
not. They were talking about the Spurs. That's what they were talking about.
Exactly.
Always talking about the Spurs, which is cool, but yeah. So I so many questions there, but really, I mean, all of those. If you can offer insight, like what made you want to do that, and how did you feel when it went out, and what kind of response did you have?
I think a lot of it was I wanted to own my narrative, and I felt like arming people with the right information just does so much rather than people making assumptions or assumptions lead to some very bad places. And I just didn't want it wasn't necessarily like I didn't want it to be a surprise. But I wanted people to know the right things, and I wanted people to know the right information. And I also wanted people to know that I wasn't afraid to field questions because I knew there would be a lot of them, especially
Mhm.
within those walls. There definitely wasn't anything like that happening. I mean, I can definitely tell you, like, the conversations I had with HR, because I did consult with them beforehand and say, this is what I want to do. I want
Mhm.
to own this narrative. I don't want to be something that people whisper about behind closed doors. And I
Right.
don't want people to fear me either
Right.
because I had been working there for so long. I was like, this is going to be a shock to some people. And I
Mm.
don't want to be like, I didn't want to be a spectacle either. And I was like, if
Sure.
people are prepared, I'm not going to be a spectacle. It's not going to be something scary. And it's going to be
Mhm.
that something that people feel like they can approach, even if they don't understand it. I want them to know it's okay if they don't understand it, and I'm
Mhm.
here to help if they want to better understand it. So a lot of it was just I want to own this narrative. And I went into HR and to my boss at the time and said, this is how I want this to go. And I feel 100% confident about putting this out there. I
Mhm.
don't want to be a secret because there's no way we can hide this. Like, my
Right.
voice is going to drop, facial
Right.
hair is going to come. Like, I don't want people thinking, like, wow, this kid's just got a weird glandular problem. Like, I want people to know that, this is me and this is who I've kind of always been, but now I'm finally coming into it and in a
Yeah.
position where I can truly embrace it. And honestly, like with the name change, I was so proud of it because I had long detested my birth name since I was probably like 3 years old. I can remember
Mm.
being 3 or 4 and being like, I don't like this name. And of course, it's pat pat on the head. That's cute. Nobody really
Mhm.
likes their name. And it was very, with kids, unfortunately, like that kind of stuff gets dismissed with kids. They're like, it's a
Yeah.
phase, you just
Yeah.
don't like it because you want something else.
Right.
But I was so proud of the work that I put into it as well because I did a lot of that solo. In Texas, you don't have a lot of assistance for that type of thing.
No.
And so there was so much of it that I felt really empowered within myself to say, you know what? This is me. I'm not here to impress anybody. I am just
Right.
here to live this life because we have a finite amount of time on this earth, and I'm going to own this narrative.
Mm.
And I was very surprised at the support that I received. I thought for sure they were going to say, yeah, no, we're not ready for that. But I think
Mm.
because I went in there and was very much like, I have a
We're doing
letter.
this.
I have a plan. Yeah, we're doing this. Like I crafted this. We're gonna go. I'm kind of
Yeah.
taking this off of your plates to begin with, from you all having to have this awkward, like almost parental conversation with adults.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna take it on. So I was a little nervous, but I think more so it was about, I'm going to see who's really with me and who's not with me. And I think
Hmm.
this is going to be a really good opportunity for people to experience, having somebody who can explain this a little bit better. Or I'm going to be exposed to something that, I'm going to see this person isn't scary.
Hmm.
So it was a lot, excuse me, it was a lot of just wanting to own that narrative hardcore that drove that.
You are so hardcore. You've always been so hardcore, and that's why people love you so much. Because, like, well, yeah, you. I guess you operate, for lack of a better word, with this energy and this confidence. Has that always been the case, or was it kind of like a growing, a learned experience came later kind of thing?
Yeah, it was definitely a growing thing because as a very, very late diagnosed neurodivergent person, like I wasn't always as
Mm,
outgoing. And I think sometimes, even as a kid, like when I was outgoing or perceived as outgoing, it was
hmm.
very much a mask of being someone who was outgoing because that kind of helped me survive my own awkwardness as a child.
Mm,
Because I knew from a very young age that I was not like everybody else. Like I think that is
mm.
something I've consistently carried with me probably since birth. Like if that doctor could have said anything when I was delivered, he'd be like, "Oh, he's awkward." Uh,
You're like, I would like a second opinion, sir.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Wham.
I think when I was born, the doctor was like, "He's awkward and anxious." So
This baby won't stop vibrating. It's shaking too much.
Exactly, exactly. 100%. So it was
Mm,
very much through a lot of just learning and
yeah,
a good therapist. I have an amazing therapist I've been seeing for a very long time. And
that's
it was a
good.
lot of having to give myself that safety to really explore
Mhm,
and come into who I am. So
mhm.
it's a lot of growth. Like what is here is a ton of growth and a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, again, I say it again, but yeah, you lead with such a force. You are a force, and that's so amazing that you just went for it and you leaned into who you were and just like the idea behind what led to that, what things played, together in order for you to get to step up, right? And just be completely open with everyone. That's so fascinating. I'm so glad I've heard this story now because I've been wondering for what do we say? We've not talked to each other for 10 years, I think.
My gosh, 10 years.
10 years, baby. So I've been wondering about that for 10 years. But I've also watched you, not in a creepy way, but I've seen you on social and been like, wow, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. So again, I say that all the time. I'm very proud of you. And I am so
Thank
happy
you.
that you are just living so authentically and you are so happy. That makes me happy that you're happy. If anybody messes with you, you call me and I'll be there like that. I'll have
Thank
something to say.
you.
Everyone that's close to me, I tell them that. And like, I will be there in a hot minute. I do not need a reason. I do not need a 13th reason. Just send me in, coach. Send me in. My son is also transgender and he had the worst situation, I guess, growing up in that his mother would never acknowledge this and made him live as his birth assignment and name, and it really just did a number on him in so many ways, and one of which eventually in his younger years, I guess he was probably maybe somewhere around 12, maybe 13, maybe 12, though, we found out that he tried to take his own life because he couldn't handle
Mhm.
it anymore. And there are
Yeah.
so many kids that do that. There are
Yes.
so many kids that get to that breaking point because their parents won't acknowledge them. Like you said, sometimes people don't listen to children and especially teenagers. I mean, that's a hard road period by itself, and then to have that on top of, can't even imagine. That's so hard. So I can see why they would get to that point, and hopefully they don't. Hopefully someone intervenes or something. But when it comes to our kid, we didn't know about that suicide attempt until later on, when his mom was dying. So she got cancer, and we didn't know until very late in the game.
Mm.
And then after she passed away, he came to live with us, and I adopted him. He was 14, and I adopted him because I was like, there's no way in hell that if something happens to that kid that we go to the hospital that they're trying to keep me out because I'm just a step parent. And I was like, no, that ain't happening. I'm going to jail
Yeah.
because I'm like breaking in there and, knocking around nurses and stuff and code
Yeah.
red or whatever they call it. Oh, you better believe it. No one's messing with my people. That's just a thing.
Love it.
So I adopted him, and it was in COVID time. And I remember the judge saying, like, normally we'd give you a teddy bear, but because it's COVID, sorry, kid, we did it on Zoom. And so at that point, he asked, can I live? Can I live now? Can I be myself? Can I actually be who I want to be? And I was like, kid, child, precious, love you. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, yes, you can. Yes, you can live however it is you wish to live. Yes, you can be called whatever it is that you want to be called. There's no reason why you should want to die in a place where you're surrounded by love. Like, never. There just
Yeah.
shouldn't be. So, we let him determine his path within reason. I mean, there are some things that we were like, let's wait a little bit.
Yeah.
When it comes to surgeries and hormones and things like that, we said, okay, let's wait until you're 18, and then in between then, if we can do binders, we can do whatever it is that you want to do. Like an agreement, right? We all compromised, and he was cool with it. He was just happy to be able to live, his authentic self, and that was great. I was happy for him, and he went from being this kid that stayed in a dark room all the time to coming out and making friends and being in the theater and being, on the stage and backstage and just really coming to life and being his own person. And today he's still his own person. He lives with his friend who they have an apartment, and he's very responsible, very empathetic. He's a good person, and I couldn't ask for better. But there was a significant difference in him when he was allowed to live, like really live.
It's
So.
wild how that really happens because I remember my best friend Anna, her wedding, which was years ago, was really the first time that I had insisted on being called Seth instead of my birth name. And I hadn't legally changed my name yet, but I had my short hair. I wanted to be called Seth. She had a destination wedding, so there was a
Mhm.
few friends of hers that we knew, but some people that were new to us. And it was so wild though, because I had already at that time started binding. I hadn't had any surgeries yet. I hadn't even gotten on hormones yet, but I was
Mhm.
very much masculine presenting. And I
Mhm.
remember that whole trip because we went to a state, we went to Maine, and then we went to New Hampshire where we've never been before. And feeling myself also just being more confident. And even my
Mhm.
best friend had said, she was like, you just kind of came to life, and everyone was calling you by the correct name. And
Yeah.
it was funny because even my mom had said when I called my mom to tell her about my name change, we had a really good conversation and she, we cried together and she was like, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I can remember seeing your social media post and the trip that you had with Anna and how you just were so alive and were such a different person and how excited and happy you were. And it was
Mhm.
like, I felt like I was watching you really be seen for the first time. And I mean, I
Mm.
was a grown ass adult when this happened, so I can imagine
Yeah.
how your son felt, because I've been there and it really
Yeah.
is such an amazing transformation when you really get to live and be your authentic self and be embraced for it.
I completely agree. I mean, watching him be accepted by his peers, and then we lived in this area where there were two schools, and one of them was like highly rated, really good school, super homophobic and racist, but still a good school. And then this other one that was just a melting pot of ethnicities and acceptance, and just so many different people, so many different kinds of people, and it was known for having, I guess, like issues with students, doing bad things, but still at the same time, they still had an arts program, they had a choir program, and they had really good teachers that gave a damn because they
Yeah.
were teaching at a school where, I mean, it's not dangerous minds by all means, but it was, pretty spicy.
Yeah.
And so he ended up having to go to that school because we were like a block away from the border of the other school, and that ended up being the best thing in the world because he did so well and he was so accepted at that school. The principal made it a point to check in with him and make sure that he was okay. You
Wow,
know,
that's amazing.
they would give special passes, because at that time bathroom stuff was going on, so they would
Yeah.
let him use whatever bathroom he wanted, and yeah,
Wow.
it was amazing to know that when I dropped off my kid at school, nothing was going to happen to him because the
Yeah.
teachers and the kids were watching him. Funny enough, the theater teacher ended up being my best friend from high school, which was hilarious. Like, I had no idea he was even there. And I go to see my kid in a play, and this tiger mom is like, "Oh yes, my kid's been in all the plays and I know the theater, blah blah blah." And then the director comes up and she's like, "Here comes the director." And then I'm like, "Martin, my boy." And she's just like, "Oh, you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, for like 20
Yes.
plus years, girl. Get in line." So, oh my God, he was amazing. And he also watched over my kid while my kid was there. So that was just,
Yeah.
and can't ask for better. And
I
so
love
he
it.
graduated from there. And even watching your kid go to school during COVID was crazy because, then they're at home and then they get depressed because they're stuck in their house. All kinds of crazy things that happened during COVID. My brother passed away during COVID. Everyone has someone that passed away during COVID. I've yet to meet anyone that doesn't, which says something. But
Yeah.
yeah, COVID was rough, and I think that there were some interesting things and perspectives and way that we view the world and each other. Just
Yeah.
just like with 9/11, during 9/11, people became closer and started acting like communities. And you have to wonder, why does it take something so big and atrocious to bring us together like that? Why?
Yeah, to restore humanity. And it's so sad that it takes sometimes an immense tragedy to restore humanity and say, you know what, now we're going to look at each other as human beings, which I
Mm,
wish we could do that during good times, and it wouldn't take like this whole disaster of to regain our humanity. It's so wild how
yeah.
it works that way.
Right. And it's not even like it's a ridiculous concept either. It's not like it takes a whole lot of effort. Like, you could literally, and something that you already do, doing kind things for others and just kind of like being compassionate in little ways. Like, those are all wonderful ways to encourage humanity and to be that representative of humanity that other people see. And they're like, "Oh, I want to be a good human." Like, that's freaking awesome. So, in that respect, I do that with the show, and that interviewing humanity kind of gives an opportunity for us to listen to other perspectives and then also reflect on our own humanity and say, you know what, I could be even way more compassionate because that person has done that, and look at them, they're awesome. And we we instantly compare ourselves to each other, right? Already, we always do.
Yes.
And then if we did it in a positive way and said, wow, they're doing amazing things and they're being really kind and compassionate, I wonder what that would look like for me, and if everyone had that thought, like if everyone
Yeah.
listened to the show, I love that you got that.
I
um
love it.
so, but yeah, if we all did these really kind acts, selfless acts, mind you, selfless, there's no payoff. Those are the best kind. If you do something just to do it, and it just feels right. Case example, my ex told me, he was at the train station the other day, and this homeless man was there, and he gave him his food, gave him his whole food for lunch without even asking, or he just gave it to him, and then he went to work. And I thought that was freaking badass. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to reward you just period because you're being a good human. So I went and got him freaking top ass ramen from a badass
Nice.
ramen spot. And I'm like, here you go. Thanks for being a good human. Cause just you should encourage things like that.
Yeah, just
So
little things.
yeah, I mean, we could hold the door. You could ask, how are you doing? And actually effing mean
Mean
it.
it. Yeah. You
Like, that's
know?
a big deal. It's a game changer. I mean, how many people are there that want to express how they're feeling and nobody asks them, how are you feeling?
Yeah, just little things. I mean, one of the things that always sticks out that my wife did that I love it, and it seems like the smallest thing, but it always like makes my heart just melt when I think about it. I remember
Mm.
she and I were out shopping one day, and we walked out of the store, and we all of a sudden see a whole saltine cracker literally fall in front of our feet. And we look up and we see some birds, and we're like, oh, it was heavy. And so she reaches over and very gently with her foot breaks the cracker into maybe about 5 pieces. And as we walk away, each bird came down and took a piece. And I almost cried. And she's like, what's wrong? And I said, That was the most beautiful gesture that I've seen in forever, and I don't think I'm ever gonna forget seeing that because it was so beautiful how you instinctively just did that, and it was like it wasn't even a big deal to her. She was just like, "Oh, how sweet! They all got a piece." Meanwhile, I'm like about to Snow White cry, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's so
Yeah.
beautiful!" And she's like, "Okay, we need to get home. Your ice cream's gonna melt." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand how beautiful that was." And I that
Oh.
has always stuck with it was years ago when it happened, and I bring it up still with her, and I'm like, "It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen," and
Yeah.
it was so compassionate. And they were just little birds, and you were instinctively like, "I want to make sure that they all get fed and they all go
Oh.
happy." And it
Yeah.
resonated so hard with me that in times when I feel my own compassion slipping, I think of that, and it brings me
Yeah.
back to that place.
Yes. I feel like we all kind of have maybe, I hope so. I hope we all have a story like that that kind of like refocuses our humanity for us and that we almost like center ourselves with it. So like for me, my friend who was a veteran, they were around when another friend of mine was pregnant and her husband had diabetes and they needed groceries, but their car was not working. And so this friend took their army rucksack and took their money, walked to the grocery store because they didn't have a car either, but they walked to the grocery store a mile down the road, loaded it up with groceries, and then carried the rest on their hands. And they walked all the way back and delivered those groceries to my friend without even having
Wow.
been asked.
Wow.
And yeah, I was just like blown away by that. So yeah,
That's amazing.
crazy stuff. But yes, man, we just all need to be kinder and more compassionate for sure. Are you a good human?
I would say yes. I would definitely say yes. And I think that it takes a lot of work to be a good human. And I think that I've put in so much work just mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I will definitely say I don't think I was always a good human. I think that I was an existing human, and I would tell myself I was a good human because I wasn't like a serial killer or I wasn't breaking laws. And I think that I was setting a very low bar for myself, and I think a lot of us do, though. I think a lot of us do set a very low bar when it comes to, what we perceive as good, because there's so much bad in the world that we kind
Mhm.
of get to that mindset. We fall into that mindset of, well, I could be worse, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that after a while, and it's age, it's growth, it's a lot of the work I did with my mental health too, just growing as a person. Um, I think that I finally am in that place, and I grew into that place where I can confidently say, I am a good person and really mean it and not
Yeah.
second guess it. And I think that alone is a huge act because I think a lot of times we as people sometimes second guess it, or we say it with a question mark at the end. Well, I'm a good person. But
Yes.
yeah, it's like it's almost like we're putting caveats in our mind about but
And why would people do that? So let me tell you, you are literally the first person to ever answer that and definitively say I'm a good person. Like
wow.
everyone else is like, well, I think I'm a good person, or else it's like I'm a good person, but subjectively, what is that? Like everyone has done that, and I'm like, okay, you know yourself better than anyone, and
Yeah.
so. I mean, I'm not judging. I'm not judging one bit. But when I hear someone say, "Oh, hell's yeah, I'm a good person," I know that there is action behind it. There's compassion behind it. There's you living in yourself and just knowing that you've done the best you possibly could for humanity, and that's to be applauded. So yay you.
Thank you. I think a lot of it is showing compassion to ourselves too.
Mm,
And I think
yeah.
that we don't always stop to show compassion to ourselves first. And that's where compassion starts. And I think one of the most interesting things I had a monk drop on me one time is that they said compassion isn't necessarily agreeing with somebody. And I was like, wait, what? Because I was a lot younger when I heard this. So I had to meditate on that for days because I was like, you just completely effed up what I thought compassion was. Like now
Yeah.
that distorted me so bad, but in a good way. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh. And, I kind of explained it to myself slowly and said, you don't necessarily have to agree. Like, you could,
Mm,
when you're showing compassion to yourself, you could be like, you know what, I'm going to show compassion for myself for this mistake that I made. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I'm not going to hold it over my head for the rest of my life. And as a neurodivergent person, it's hard for me to turn off my instant replay of things that happened like years ago. Like there's that running joke of where when the waiter puts down your food and they say enjoy your food and you accidentally say you too and you think about that for the next like 20 years of your life.
Yes.
You kind of have to stop like ruminating on it in that moment, or if you're going to ruminate it, at least treat that moment with care and bring yourself back to where your feet are and show compassion to yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to start showing it genuinely towards others.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Man, yeah. It reminds me of how, like, you would accidentally call a waitress mom or say I love you to someone and you're like, oh shit. I
Yes.
think I did that once on the phone. I was like, all right, I love you, but crap. I was like, okay, thanks for my insurance. I guess I
Right.
must have the premium package.
You're like, hopefully I will never talk to that customer again, ever.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, the stories we have. Oh,
Yes.
so going back to humanity, because we could easily go into these crazy stories, but I mean, yeah, that may be a part two. When it comes to love and loss seem to define much of our shared human experience. Can you tell us about a loss or a love that left you with a profound perspective on life or a realization about yourself?
I think one of the greatest losses that I had had very recently, and it was almost like a double, gosh, like a triple bogey, is that I lost my grandmother around the time that I was physically losing my grandmother. Like she had had a stroke. We knew that she was probably not going to last the rest of the week. She had been battling dementia as well. But at that same time, I was losing relationship wise one of my best friends at that time, someone who I'd gotten very close to, who had gotten very close to my wife and I both. And even though I wasn't physically losing her, I knew that I was losing that relationship. It turned out, hindsight, it was a very bad relationship. It was probably one of the best things that could have happened was her being out of our lives. But I also, not long after that, my wife lost her grandmother, and I was like, had a very good bond with her grandmother as well. And her grandmother
Mm,
had been very profound to me in that relationship, because when she first met me, I hadn't transitioned yet. And then when I saw her for the second time, I had transitioned, but she just didn't even skip a beat with calling me the correct name, the correct pronouns.
mm,
And it literally felt like when I walked through that threshold of her grandmother's house, like nothing had changed. Like she loved me absolutely the same. And so she to me has always been the kind of person who, I mean, I felt the way I felt about my grandmother, I felt with my wife's grandmother. So all three of these losses are occurring at the same time. And it was so trying, like on my soul and on spiritually and emotionally. I didn't get to see my maternal grandmother that much growing up. I saw her maybe like once a year. And even once I had moved to South Texas and she lived there, I still didn't get to see her very much. And it was very profound to be going through all these losses at the same time. And
mm.
then when we went to my grandmother's memorial, which my grandmother, this is how amazing, just awesomely cool, offbeat person she was. We had her memorial at her favorite bar.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes, we had it at the Esquire, which is still in
Hell yeah.
downtown. Yes,
I know the
downtown San
Esquire.
Antonio. Yes,
A lot of things happen at that bar. Ooh.
yes, like amazing. And food is James Beard Award nominated, by the way, so I would totally recommend people eat there. But amazing bar. And we went there, and it was open bar, so it was great. We had mariachis come in, like it was fantastic.
That's
And we even,
amazing.
yeah, we had my grandmother's urn there, everything. There was a big photo of her, there was the urn. Like her presence could be really felt in that room. And when we were on our way home from the memorial, I turned to my mom, and I mean, I had definitely been drinking. It was open bar. We had all been drinking. Like by the time the mariachis got there, we were all sobbing because we all were unabashed at that point with our emotions. But we were on our way home. I was really thinking about it, and I turned to my mom and I said, Mom, it just all those people there, the one thing that was so constant about grandma's memory was how kind she was. No one talked about how much she dragged someone on social media or how she clapped back at someone. Like we were all remembering how kind she was and how that bar was so packed with people just remembering her kindness. And one of my favorite stories about my grandmother was when she was living at a like a retirement community, and they used to take them like on field trips. And there was this gentleman who had a very big comfort level with her and would always sit next to her on the bus. And my grandmother's friends were teasing her one day because the gentleman started coming over, and they told her in Spanish, they were teasing her, "Oh, here comes your boyfriend." And she turns to them and very defiantly says, "Es mi novio, y qué?" Which basically means, yeah, that's my boyfriend, so
Yes.
what? Like, come on, you know? But the
Mm-hmm.
way she said it, all 5 feet of her, all adorable Hispanic little 5 feet grandma, just said it with 10 toes down. And I loved that story because it shut them up and they never teased her about him again. And she, puts her arm around him and is like, "Come on, let's go. Let's, go do the field trip." But remembering all those things, and then remembering also, the kindness of my wife's grandmother, and it was just so profound to me, and it made me realize, Seth, people aren't going to remember you being like having this sharp tongue in this comeback, or dragging someone online, or dragging another person for being anti-trans. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your legacy is going to be the kindness that you put out there, and that connected so many other people to this one moment in time, this one person in time, this one thing in the universe that just starts rippling. Kindness just ripples that way. And we ended up, my wife and I ended up both getting tattoos of this they're quotes from a Taylor Swift song, but it's a very profound song called Marjorie, and it's about the
Mm.
remembrance of her grandmother. And my tattoo says, "Never be so clever you forget to be kind." Because I think in that point of time, I would often be so clever that I would forget to put that kindness first. But I
Mm.
wanted that on my body to always bring me back to that moment. But that loss was just so profound because it had me just thinking and feeling on a completely different level, where I thought, my gosh, I want my legacy to be like that, where it's a room teeming full of people remembering my kindness and remembering my
Yes.
smile and remembering how I made them laugh and remembering those good things and hopefully paying that forward
Yeah.
in the world. And so that loss, that trifecta, just I grew so much from that trifecta. Even losing our best friend at that point, one of our best
Mm.
friends, was so profound because it taught me about building healthy relationships and not feeling like I had to maintain an unhealthy relationship, and not feeling better about myself and not letting people tear me down, because I let her tear me down so hard for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
finally being free from that also opened my eyes to say, you know what, going forward, this was a good learning experience and it hurt to go through it, but I know
Mm.
what I'm never going to let happen again. And I know I'm not going to let anyone compromise my ability to be kind to others and be kind to myself.
That was a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I've
Yes.
learned so much about you today, and I'm like, I'm here for it. I really am. And it's just a testament to how awesome you are and how you already were awesome. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Talk about consistency. Oh. Now, today's society often judges what it does not understand. Big shocker.
Right.
What does society not understand about the transgender community? What could they understand, and how could they be better humans to other folks in the community?
I think the biggest misunderstanding is that people don't always see us as just people wanting to live our lives. Like, we're not trying to, I think, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the artist's name, but it's a musician. He's trans, and his first name is Sasha because he's now dating Adore Delano from RuPaul's Drag Race.
No.
And
Whoa.
yeah, Sasha's amazing. And one of the songs that he has, he had talked about how his existence is not an act of revolution.
Mm,
And that resonated so hard with me because, yes, I want to change the world, but I don't
mm,
want my existence to be this act of revolution. I literally just want to be able to go to the doctor, get treatment like everybody else. I want to be able to, live happily with my wife like everyone else. And I think, I would want to say the majority of the trans community, that's all they're seeking out, is to have the same opportunities, the same experiences, the same
hmm.
respect as anybody else. I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that we want something special. We want to be special. And I'm like,
Right.
girl, I don't
Right.
want to be special. Like, I just want to be Seth, and I just want to
Yeah.
be happy and safe. And I think that all people, and I mean, that's a big part of my empath humanitarian side is we all deserve, respect and safety and
Mhm.
stability. And,
Mhm.
I think that people, even if they're not actively fighting for the transgender community, want to say, they could at least show that compassion. If you don't understand where I'm coming from, that's 100% okay. And I've always
Mhm.
told people that, it's
Mhm.
okay to not understand. I'm sure I don't understand a lot of your existence, and it's
Mhm.
okay to not understand mine. And you don't have to. Like, it's mine to understand, but don't
Mhm.
try to take that on and then keep throwing back, well, I don't understand, so I don't like this. I'm like, I don't understand quantum physics, but I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I don't like it. No one should be able to
Right.
do it.
Right.
It's, I think that people treat our existence as, well, I have to agree or disagree with it. It's like, no, you can just let it be. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to have, this opinion on it that I have to live my life a certain way. You can just
Mhm.
let it be, because I probably have no impact on your life. Me existing has no impact on your well being or your ability to go buy avocados at the grocery store. Like, none of that.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
like, let it, let it breathe. Just let it breathe and let it
Yeah.
be.
I mean, even the whole bathroom thing, that's just preposterous, right? I mean, that's just crazy. I think, there are certain things that were introduced to create that division, and that was one of them. I mean,
100%.
the actions of a few do not represent those of the many, just plain and
Yeah,
simple.
a hundred
And
percent.
so, and similar to also, journalists and people in the media being completely stricken of their ability to report on things because people
Yes.
automatically believe that the news is fake or that it's skewed, when really what happened, what happened was, but no one's really quite talking about it, is that, the administration sowed that kind of doubt into the country so
Yes.
that automatically you will no longer look at journalists or networks as having an honest opinion, or having beliefs that were not skewed or paid for. And so because of that, no one can report without being questioned or looked at a certain way if it's not in line with whatever the company line is. And
Yeah.
so it's very interesting that the way that they were taken down was just merely saying that, oh, you can't trust them, because with journalism, integrity is everything. Like, if
100%.
you're not trusted, then you have nothing to
Nothing.
say anymore. Your voice is completely taken away. And so that was almost like a mastermind level kind of thing to sow doubt in the country so that you never trusted them. And then whatever they report on, if they're like, oh, there's actually, this activity going on that's so illegal, but you're like, no, I don't believe you. Like, that's so
Right?
dangerous.
Yeah.
So
No,
so
it really
yeah.
is. Because it's the
Yeah.
loudest, it's some of the loudest voices doing it. And when you think about it, if you're in a crowd and someone starts screaming, you look at a video, someone starts screaming, everyone else starts screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the kindergarten class effect. One kid, the loudest kid, starts acting up and acting a fool, everybody's gonna start acting a fool because they all just kind of
Mhm.
get into that group mentality. And that's kind of what they
Mhm.
did to the journalists. They're like, you can't
Yeah.
trust any of them. And they screamed
Right.
it loud enough that the people who are great at parroting that thing back without even looking
Mhm.
into, wait, is this legit or
Mhm.
not? They're just screaming as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are a few different areas where that happened, but yeah, the bathroom one sticks out to me for sure because I mean, it's just dumb. It's just so dumb. I mean, it's like before
Right?
someone mentioned it, it was already there. Like, people were already just using bathrooms. Like, it was whenever someone pointed it out and said, "Look at that green spot" or whatever, and it became this big, national security emergency. So it's
Yeah, I know.
terrible.
I told somebody at one point because they said, well, I don't want a trans person in the bathroom with me. And I'm like, well, if you're going into the stall with a second person, you're using that restroom wrong. I'm like, it's a one-seater situation, Patty. Like, if you bringing someone else in there with you, like, you are not using that restroom correctly.
Wow. Was that San Antonio? Because that's so San Antonio.
Right?
That's so Esquire. Oh, wow. If you could share a message with humanity, any message at all, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to listen compassionately and listen more than speaking, because this is why society got in the situation that it got into, is because we don't listen compassionately. We listen and then tune out because we're so busy building a counterpoint or a clapback or a way to respond to that. And I think we need to stop treating everything as a debate and absorb things. Like, take back what you heard and ruminate on that for a while. Meditate on it for a while. Think about it when you're in the shower, something like digest it. It's something that we need to make sure that we're sitting with and
Mm,
really truly listening and thinking about what has been said, and not focus on, well, how am I going to clap back or make this person feel stupid, or how am I going to contradict them? Like, that's not what it's about. And that's unfortunately what's been so pervasive right now. So I would just say, like, truly compassionately listen. Even if you can't
hmm.
empathize, just listen and
Yeah.
then give it a moment to simmer. It's like making tea. You don't just throw the bag in there for a second and then throw it out and drink a cup of shitty hot water. Like, you gotta let those flavors develop before you can really decide, all right, what do I really think of this? So I would
Hmm.
say listen and slow down.
Slow your roll.
Yeah, 100%.
I haven't said that in forever, but yes, totally agree. Where can people find you online so they can connect with you?
Probably the easiest way is on my Instagram. It's at Seth Rome, and I will soon be connecting my Substack link to it because I just
Mm.
realized yesterday I do not have my Substack link to my Instagram, and that is the social media that I tend to be on the most because I like pretty pictures and not a whole lot of other stuff.
Mm.
It's a nice escape, but yeah,
Yeah.
once I have my Substack link, I definitely invite people to go there, kind of check out. I've started writing again, which I haven't done in a while, and it's one of my favorite outlets. So I invite people
Yes.
to come connect with me on Instagram, send me a DM, just connect with me however. I love, getting discuss things with new people in the world. So yeah.
Yeah. And people should look for you on Substack as well. Do you know what your handle there is, or is it like a bunch of numbers and letters or something?
Gosh, I think it is Seth Rome as well. I'm trying
Mm.
to think. I'm pretty sure it is, but I will definitely link it up to my Instagram so people can
Well,
find me.
let's talk about that for a second. So you're writing again. What kind of things are you writing?
I am kind of letting myself be vulnerable again with my writing.
Mm.
It's something I did a long time ago as a teenager, as an older teenager, actually. I was writing a lot into my early 20s, and then I kind of just stopped putting it out there, but I really enjoyed it. And I've started writing about things from the past that I can now see clearly, or even my experiences now, like knowing about my neurodivergence. When you have that lens, all of a sudden, you start looking at your childhood really differently, and you start looking at, your awkwardness from the past really differently, and you realize, oh, okay. And I think that I am trying to have more of the vulnerable conversations and put it out there to let other people know that it's okay if you kind of went through those rocky patches, or if
Hmm.
you had some experiences that you might have carried some shame about that you didn't realize, that you don't have to be ashamed of those things. You can bring them to light, and you'd be surprised how many other people will bring theirs to light as well. So I really just want to help the world feel a little less alone.
Yeah, I love that very much. I'm so glad that you're writing. I think that's excellent. I think that when we indulge in those creative habits that are habit forming, but they're okay, um, we really have the ability to express ourselves and also de-stress, because creative
Yes.
things help you de-stress. Music does that for me. I love playing music, and then doing all of this. Of course, this is my work and my fun, so I love
I
it so
love
much.
it.
And it's like man, that darn phrase that's like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yes.
It's true. It's true. I get out of bed all the time and just go work on stuff and go to sleep when I'm sleepy. Well, it has been the best afternoon having you here, Seth. 10 years. Let's not let another 10 years go by
Yes. Yeah, we're not
before
going to let another
we,
decade slip
oh,
by.
definitely not. Definitely not. You'll come visit me. I'll come visit you. We'll do
Yes.
the things. We'll have the drinks, and it'll be a good time for sure. But seriously,
100%.
thank you for sharing your thoughts on humanity and sharing your humanity with us. And for those of you watching and listening, thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. Remember everything that you heard here today. Be kind to other humans and think about your humanity and how you can best serve others. In that, we will do great things, and we will create that humanity 2.0 that we so desperately need. So be good humans, care about each other, and go find Seth on Instagram
Yes.
and Substack and me and the show. We need sponsors. Hi. Would you like to sponsor? I know you would. See you guys next week on another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. Have the best day of your lives. You too, Seth. Humanity 2.0 podcast is brought to you by Vanessa The Vivacious Productions. Want to be a guest? Visit the link in the episode description for future guest opportunities. Ready to podcast like a boss? Join PodMatch and begin your PodMatch journey via the link also listed in the description. Subscribe to Humanity 2.0 podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Follow and help support the show by buying Humanity a cup of coffee via buymeacupofcoffee.com/Humanity 2.0 podcast. Above all, don't forget to be good to other humans. See you guys next time.